Hello, and a very good evening to everyone. This is Teacher Alfredo with 123 American English. And tonight, I'm going to be talking about more polite ways that we can say yes, no, and maybe in English. So I'd like to begin by sharing my screen. Okay, so if my screen can now be seen, let me start by talking about more polite ways that we can say yes in English. So when we say yes, although yes is usually more easy to say as it's positive than saying no or maybe, we do have different types of yeses that we could use in different situations. So, for example, if someone asks a friend or a colleague would ask you at work, could you send me the documents before lunch? If we're going to answer yes, but in a more casual way, we could say, yeah, sure, no problem. Or, yeah, I'd be happy to. But if one of our clients or one of our customers is asking us the same question, we want to be a little bit more formal now. And in this situation, we wouldn't say yes or yeah, no problem. But now we would say, yes, of course, or certainly, I will. So we can see that we have an informal and we also have a more formal way that we can say yes, depending on who is talking to us. Now, if you want to say yes, but in a strong way, like if someone asked you and was talking and said, I think that the police should receive more money because they do such a dangerous job, for example, only, and you agree very strongly to what the person says, you could just answer, absolutely, or, excuse me, you're certainly right, or you're absolutely right. And even, I totally agree with you. So this is a strong yes. And again, that's how we could use these words. Now, sometimes you may hear people use the word yup, which is spelled Y-U-P. And yup is a very, very informal way to say yes. So we wouldn't use this when we're in a more formal situation. But very, very informally, sometimes if you are talking with your friends, for example, and they might just answer you and they might say, yep. So, for example, if you ask your friend, are you going to the party tomorrow? And your friend might just answer, yep. So again, yup is a very, very informal way to say yes. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about some different ways that we could say no. So if we want to be a little bit more polite when we answer no, we could often insert the words thank you. So let me give you some examples. If somebody was trying to sell you something and you didn't really want to be very, very rude to them, maybe it was even a friend that was trying to offer you something. In this kind of situation, we could answer, no, but thank you. I really appreciate the offer. Or if your friend was inviting you to go to a particular event, but you didn't want to. Or maybe your schedule was already full. In this case, we could say, no, thank you. As thank you, no, thank you so much for inviting me. Excuse me. Let me start again. No, but thank you so much for inviting me. But I have already made other plans. No, thank you so much for inviting me, but I have already made other plans. Or we could answer, I wish I could, but I just don't have time right now. And another option could be for us to answer, not right now, but maybe another time. So as we can see here, these are different ways that we could say no. And usually these are in a more polite way. So we're less likely to offend somebody or hurt somebody's feelings. Now, just as I mentioned before with yes, if people use the word yup, which is very informal, for no, we have the word nope, which is spelled N-O-P-E. Nope. Again, very informal. So if someone asked, if you were at a party and someone asked, would you like another piece of cake? You could answer, nope, I've already had enough. Nope, I've already had enough. So remember, yup is very, very informal for when we want to answer yes. And nope is very informal for when we want to answer no. Okay. Another kind of situation is if someone that is asking us about a meeting, for example, and they say, would you be able to change the date of the meeting? Our answer here could be, I'm sorry, but we won't be able to change the date of the meeting. Or, I'm afraid that's not possible. So by adding a few words here, we have also a more polite way to say no in this type of situation. Yes. I'm sorry, but we won't be able to change the date of the meeting. You could use this in different situations. This was just, of course, an example. Or, I'm afraid that's not possible. All right. And when we talk about saying maybe in English, when we are not sure about something or we're not ready to commit, that is a situation when we're saying maybe. So let me give you an example here. If somebody, again, was asking you, maybe a friend was asking you about going to a party. And now you could answer, instead of just saying maybe, now you could answer, perhaps I can make it. Let me check my calendar. Or we could also replace perhaps with, I might be able to make it. Let me check my calendar. Or we could also say, let me think about it. Or, well, I will have to think about it. So these are some nice ways, more polite ways that we could say maybe. And the last example is when we want to say, I can't. Now, in professional situations, sometimes it's not so nice to use the words, I can't, because it sounds negative and it sounds like we have failed. If you said, I can't do it, very, very negative, and it doesn't really make us look good. So instead, by adding a few words, we can eliminate that negative feeling, and we can make it sound like we're actually trying to do something, or we're trying to do as much as we can. So let me give you another example here. If your boss at work asked you, could you complete the report by this afternoon? And we know that we can't complete the report, or that we can't do it by the end of this afternoon. But instead of just saying, I can't, or I can't do it, we could change it a little bit. And we could now say, I am unable to complete this by this afternoon, but I'll have it for you first thing in the morning. I'm unable to complete this by this afternoon, but I'll have it for you first thing in the morning. So this sounds much more positive. And again, it sounds like we're really doing as much as we can. So even though we can't complete the report by this afternoon, we're telling our boss that we are still working on it and we will have it by the next morning. Or if a friend was asking if you would like to have lunch with them, for example, and you're busy, in this kind of situations, instead of just saying, I can't, we could say, I'm unable to meet you tomorrow, but I'd love to next week. I'm unable to meet you tomorrow, but I'd love to next week. So just if you listen to that, doesn't that sound more polite? And it's not as negative. It sounds much nicer, and it's something that the people around us could accept easily. So here we're using words again, such as, I am unable to, instead of saying I can't. By adding a few words here, we're making our statements much, much more positive and polite. Right. So these are some very, very nice ways that we could say yes, no, and maybe in English. So I'm going to also post this in our WhatsApp group so that you could continue to review this topic. So yes, thank you again so much for listening and for your time. And I'd like to again wish everybody a very, very good evening.